Welcome to the El Salvador SV News Podcast, a space for conversation and reflection where we explore current topics from El Salvador and the world together. You can support this project via PayPal. You'll also find details in the description of this content or by purchasing digital content of products you might like. Check out what interests you and make a purchase. With that, you help and support us to continue providing content. You'll find all the methods in the content description. Find us on your favorite platform, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio. We're on almost all platforms as Noticias El Salvador SV.
All right, let's unpack this. Our sources today deliver a really striking contrast. On one hand, you have these massive global flashpoints. We're talking hard power politics, deterrence, diplomacy stretched thin across Asia and the Middle East.
And then on the other hand?
The stark, almost paradoxical reality of a nation like El Salvador juggling, record safety with this enormous financial liability.
That's our mission today. Yeah. We're guiding you through a pretty complex analysis, moving from these huge military exercises near Taiwan, all the way down to the granular challenge of a looming multi-billion-dollar pension deficit in Central America.
So we need to look at the risks in the global landscape and then connect those high-level tensions to what's actually driving a specific national reality.
Exactly.
We should start where the tension is highest,
with
the geopolitical maneuvers dominating all the headlines.
Let's do it.
Starting in the Pacific, we've seen China conduct these major surprise exercises near Taiwan.
The ones dubbed Mission of Justice 2025.
That's the one. And this wasn't some minor drill, was it?
Oh, not at all. This was a comprehensive display. You're talking the People's Liberation Army, so their Navy, their Air Force, and even the formidable rocket force.
And it went on for a while.
It did. They prolonged the whole thing, running it right up until December 30th.
And what's crucial here, I think, is the geography of it. The sources really highlight this.
It's the key part. It shows a serious escalation. They issued 2 new warning zones, Zone 6 and Zone 7.
And critically, both of those are located where?
Directly within Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, the ADAZ.
For anyone listening, the ADAZ is essentially Taiwan's self-declared buffer zone for air traffic.
That's right. So by putting warning zones inside it, China is, they're making a very clear statement.
They're asserting that this is now their operating space.
Precisely. It's an assertion of capability that physically and psychologically just moves that claimed border closer to Taiwan.
Yeah.
It challenges the entire operational status quo.
It's just so striking to move from that kind of hard power play to the incredibly intricate and almost broken diplomacy in the Middle East.
It's a complete contrast.
Right. China is flexing military muscle, but in Gaza and Israel, you have military action and high-stakes diplomacy happening at the exact same time on parallel tracks.
Yeah, the main flashpoint was that meeting between United States President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago.
Focusing on shoring up that, very fragile Gaza ceasefire.
But the sources show how difficult that is. President Trump was simultaneously hearing complaints from Arab and Muslim partners about ongoing Israeli attacks in Gaza, but also in Lebanon and Syria.
And the sources really detail the friction points that are threatening the whole plan for reconstruction, the so-called Phase 2.
There are a couple of core issues.
First one being Hamas's refusal to disarm.
Absolutely. Disarmament is a core component of that 20-point peace plan. And, while Hamas has suggested it might integrate into a future Palestinian state's military, that's not disarmament. That step just hasn't happened.
And that's all tied up with the second issue, right? The unreturned body of the last hostage, Rani Ghili.
It is. Israel is demanding the body be recovered before any significant troop movement, and they're accusing Hamas of stalling.
Which points to a much deeper problem with the whole future plan, this Junta de Paz and the International Stabilization Force, the ISF.
Right, because this whole concept of an ISF is revealing some deep internal disagreements within Israel.
The debate is basically whether to pull troops and tanks out of the 53% of Gaza they still control,
and hand security over to a totally untested international force.
All while a defiant Hamas is still armed and operating in the rest of the territory. It just sounds like a non-starter.
It really does. And the source material reflects that. There's a profound lack of confidence in the truce.
The public sentiment numbers are pretty sobering.
They really are. You have 71% of the Israeli population expecting another war with Hezbollah in the new year, and 69% expect a clash with Iran.
That is a stunning number. It just shows how little faith people have that the current diplomacy can actually hold.
There's a belief that this is just a pause, not a peace.
And that deep mistrust stands in, well, stark contrast to the intense diplomatic efforts around the Ukraine-Russia conflict,
where security is now being explicitly tied to economic reconstruction.
We know Putin has said he's considering an end to the conflict, but he added a major condition.
A huge one. Only in the context of achieving Russia's objectives.
Right, and yet the diplomatic push from the United States is substantial.
Very. The meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky focused heavily on the economic side of things.
Trump promised great economic benefits, even suggesting Ukraine has potential for great wealth during reconstruction.
And Zelensky seemed to be on board. He reported 90% agreement on the 20-point peace plan, and interestingly, 100% agreement on security guarantees.
So what's the tangible offer on that front?
According to our sources, the United States is offering solid 15-year security guarantees.
But Kyiv is pushing for more.
Of course. This whole negotiation is a high-stakes trade-off, tying that long-term physical security directly to the massive economic rebuilding effort that has to come next.
Okay, let's shift gears dramatically from global warfare to the internal economic tightrope walk happening in El Salvador.
It's a fascinating case. The financial data there reveals this stark dependence, which is creating a huge long-term challenge, this sort of hiding behind short-term relief.
Let's start with that relief because the numbers on an individual level are impressive.
They are.
The flow of remittances, so money sent home by Salvadorans abroad, is being called a real relief. It's pulled over 369,000 people out of poverty.
It's an economic lifeline, so effective that only about 3.5% of the households that get them are still in extreme poverty.
But what's critical here is the editorial viewpoint that's emerging in the sources.
Right. The challenge for El Salvador isn't just about, optimizing this dependence. It's about converting that temporary relief into a real, sustainable national development strategy.
So the idea is to make migration an option, not an obligation.
Exactly. Because relying on remittances, while it cuts poverty today, is a long-term drain of human capital.
And that analysis just perfectly sets up the dramatic contrast we see at the national level. You've got this individual financial relief happening against a looming systemic financial vulnerability.
You're talking about the pension debt.
Over $11.241 billion as of November 2025. I mean, that is a colossal number for an economy of that size.
And that figure comes from an actuarial study confirming a massive deficit in the system. It's a hugely complex fiscal challenge.
Which is why opposition groups are demanding more information.
Of course, a country just cannot carry that kind of liability forever, no matter how well it's doing right now.
Which is the paradox. How does a nation manage impressive growth while carrying that? You have to balance this pessimism with the current data.
And the data is good. The International Monetary Fund, the FMI, is forecasting 4% economic growth this year.
That's a strong number.
It is a strong number, and it suggests the banking sector is pretty productive. Our sources show banks injecting over $3.8 billion into construction and commerce. They're putting money where the growth is.
And we're also seeing major forward-looking investment. Continental Towers announced a $512 million investment.
Specifically to roll out 5G technology. That's big.
Even in traditional sectors, things look good. El Salvador sold over $163 million worth of coffee just between January and November.
So the picture you get is one of extreme complexity. You have high growth, you have substantial foreign investment, and critical poverty reduction from remittances.
All while sitting on top of an $11.2 billion time bomb in the pension system.
Right. So the question isn't if that debt will need to be resolved, it's when and how.
Because if it's not managed,
it'll force a painful reckoning. You could be looking at massive tax hikes, a sovereign debt restructure, something that could wipe out that 4% growth very, very quickly.
Moving from finance to domestic stability, we have to talk about the security statistics. They've grabbed international attention because, well, they represent a massive turnaround for the country.
It's a huge story.
The country is registering 24 days with 0 homicides in December 2025 alone.
And even more remarkably, they've completed another full year without a single student being assassinated.
That security success is undeniable, and that level of safety should, theoretically, lead to more stability and investment.
It should, but it makes the continued flow of migration all the more complex.
How so?
Well, if the country is so much safer, what's the main driver compelling people to leave? It shifts the calculus away from violence and squarely toward pure economics.
And we have to juxtapose that security success with the actual migration data.
Which is still high.
Over 5,000 Salvadoran migrants were detained in the United States in 2025. And zooming out, Texas and California are the states with the most Salvadoran captures.
And this is where it all connects: security, poverty, and economics. If people aren't fleeing gang violence anymore, they're fleeing a lack of high-quality economic opportunity.
It's that opportunity cost of losing human capital we talked about.
Exactly. The very people who could be driving that 4% growth and paying into the pension system are instead sending money home from the United States.
Meanwhile, the country's still pushing on with internal development. We're seeing progress on infrastructure like the Los Toros Highway project.
Right, new bridge construction and so on.
And there's also regulatory focus on safety. A new national regulation mandating certified helmets for motorcyclists.
And you can't forget the constant background reality of living there. The Miran recorded over 6,600 seismic events in 2025.
A constant low-level stressor on everything.
On all infrastructure and planning, yeah.
And finally, a really sobering note, especially right before the holidays, the social impact of labor issues.
Layoffs.
Layoffs of at least 30 doctors from the nation's social security system, and hundreds of workers at Hospital Rosales.
Which just suggests that even as those big macro indicators are ticking up, employment security for key sectors, including skilled professionals, is still very volatile.
So what does all of this mean for you, the listener? We've seen a world defined by strategic confrontation.
From the Taiwan Strait to Gaza and Ukraine.
And that tension is set against a Central American nation wrestling with the reality of remittances as an essential crutch, not just an economic bonus.
If you connect it all to the bigger picture, the sources reveal this fundamental disconnect. El Salvador is celebrating dramatic security gains and 4% growth.
Stability that many nations would envy.
But it has to immediately reconcile that success with an $11.2 billion pension debt and a steady stream of its citizens still migrating north.
It just shows how intertwined local stability is with global economic pressure.
And how success in one area can mask a massive failure in another.
It's a powerful deep dive. It reminds us that for many nations, the greatest threat isn't always an external military force, but a ticking internal economic clock.
So the question for El Salvador isn't really about today's 4% growth. It's about whether a nation can truly secure its future when an enormous confirmed deficit in the public pension system threatens to swallow the entire economy. Something for you to mull or explore on your own.